Guys, my mental health issues started with a psychotic episode. Um, it was determined that it was acute, so it was a sudden onset of a psychotic episode. It happened after I had a drink spiked in Miami during a music festival, and I'd been drinking a lot of alcohol as well, and suddenly I basically passed out. I had some really, really powerful thoughts about, you know, like what happens when we die and stuff. And I came round, and there were these three women on the other side of the road. Let's just shout out to them basically, hey, I need some help. Like I need to get, I don't know, it feels like I'm dying. I was confused because what just happened. They said, you're not dying. So they looked at me. They said, it doesn't look like you're dying. So they said, well, we'll just get a taxi. Yeah, I'll get a taxi to the hotel, please. Where I was. So they ordered me a taxi because I didn't have any money with me. So I ran out of money in Miami, and got back to the hotel. And there's a few days left of the festival. Basically, that evening and the following evening. And so, after having made it back to England after that, they decided to put me on quetiapine, which I'd been taking, let me think, in certain periods after, within the years following this acute psychotic episode. And what happened was, between the journey home from Heathrow, Miami to Heathrow, between the journey from Heathrow to Southampton, there are many things going on in my mind, and I was kind of like getting shady and a bit uncertain about, okay, I'm losing touch with reality. So I can see some woods on the left. I can see a warning sign. Maybe there's we're going down to 2 lanes in the motorway. I've taken half a bite of one of my sandwiches. I think like real things like that, tangible things that actually what I was looking at, as opposed to just making something up in my mind and saying, "Oh, I can see a frog jumping 15 miles into the sky." Like things like that don't happen. And eventually made it home. And when I fell asleep after Alice said, just check your bags, in your room or in the kitchen and just go to sleep. So I went to sleep and woke up in the middle of the day. I was exhausted. I hadn't slept for 3 days. And then I woke up and I said to my dad, I said, it feels like something had been taken from me, like taken out of me. And what was left was an imprint of a human being on the floor, like they had in those cartoons or CSI Miami, where it's a crime scene. So they draw an outline of the body on the floor just to have some sort of idea of how or what could have happened when this person died or something. So then I was confused as to whether I'd actually died in Miami or just passed out because my eyes were shut. I just wasn't quite aware. Wasn't aware of what the time was, and then what happened after that was I've been through about 15 different, well, and some repeated places of accommodation with regards to my mental health. It started off with the GP in Southampton, and she recommended it was me, my dad, and my brother Lucifer, and my brother Alistair, and my dad was God, I was Jesus Christ. But when he put his hand on my shoulder, I suddenly realised who I really was. I was Mark Andrew Ingram. That's my entire name. Andrew's my actual middle name. So my name is Mark Ingram. First name is Mark. Okay. Then they say, "Oh, do you have a middle name?" What is it? Andrew. My middle name. Alright, so what happened after that is it transpired that I didn't say Lucifer when I was looking at him, even though I knew full well who it was. It was weird because I was going through like hallucinations and things. And now she put me on quetiapine at the beginning of April. And then she recommended me to the early intervention psychosis. So when the mum and dad said, "Don't worry, they're gonna phone at some point today. Just get ready for the phone call." So they phoned me up and they said, "We think you have mental health issues." And I said, "Okay, okay," like that. And what happened from then is they came around to visit me and my parents and have a discussion about, was I in the right state of mind? Is there anything that was going on up here that was, ruining, you know, basically my life and other lives around me? Was I a danger to society? Should I be sectioned? And what actually happened was they sectioned me. And so, because I was doing weird kind of like things during the meeting, it was like I was trying to hold out demons from coming into the room. It is a weird kind of experience. I couldn't see any demons, but I was thinking that they were there. And just by having that thought and full well believing it, I was just pushing the door closed as sharp as possible. Just trying to make it so that nothing can get in the room. We were just in my parents' lounge. Now, after they said, "Okay, well, we'll get the care coordinator. He would take you to, Abbey Ward in Southampton." So we go to Abbey Ward. I went there. I took a bottle of water, it was starting to run out, so I filled it up from the fountain. And then my parents and Simon were basically just saying, "What do you think of this place?" I said, "Well, is there only many other people here?" I said, "No, there's not going to be, basically just you and maybe one or two others over here." And then I was like, "Well, I'm not sure about that, if it's bored or boring." And they said, "Okay, let's try Saxon Ward." When we got to Saxon Ward was bigger, and there's more people there. They had a table tennis table there. They had other activities going on, and it seemed like a happy place. So I went to Saxon Ward and agreed to stay there. I stayed on the Saxon Ward for a number of weeks, and then eventually I started hallucinating again. And this guy was talking about, he was a patient, he was talking about, "I need a house. How are you going to house me? Because when I'm off medication, I need to be housed." So I was also getting like a side point as to, oh, this person here is kind of saying it as though I need to get a house, like point, like kind of like enticing me to walk over and say, "Oh, hey mate, I see what you're saying. It's the same situation with me. I need a house as well." Because my dad said, "Just try and get out of there as soon as possible." It's not like escaping from there, which is how I took it. It literally. So sometimes the doors would be shutting, and I was trying to escape and get out of there as quickly as possible. But they'd always lock the doors, and the doors had an automatic lock on them, so you have to unlock them from the inside the staff room, and people were not allowed inside the staff room. So what happens is I never spoke to the guy or the lady who came in about the housing, but I'm in supported accommodation right now. So I'm pretty happy with how things have gone since then to now. This is back in 2016 to 2017. Then I went down to Hampton Ward. I was down in Hampton Ward for about 6 months. The hardest thing about it was each week they'd say, depending on how you are, is depending on how well we'll give your medication up or reduce it, or we'll give you leave or take away your leave for the next week. It was the absolute hardest moment that I could ever go through. We went to Roehampton, and then my parents said, "Yes, you can go to Roehampton." I met someone there called Jesse. He's a pretty cool guy. And they did smoking breaks every 15 minutes. It didn't last long in Roehampton because they didn't really feed us there. It's more like, you go there on your wit's end, and this is it. There's nothing else to do. Kind of basically end of life. I've been to Homerton, And when I was in Homerton, there's this woman called Vivian who is actually on The Voice. But I was a patient. All these places I've been a patient at. So Roehampton was basically a secured ward. And I don't know if it was a PQ or an acute ward, I can't remember. But there were people there one guy that I knew, called Jesse, who might know. And I went with Simon to the Common in Southampton to play football with some other people from the early intervention and psychosis, because since they started me up with the early intervention and psychosis, it was a 3-year process. And then when I went to the hospital, mental health hospital, they said, well, we're going to give it an extra year. So like, in terms of being with the early intervention and psychosis, the reason they gave me an extra year was because I was sectioned for another 6 months, and they couldn't decide whether to just cut me off or keep me on. So they kept me on, which is a good idea. And now I've since messaged my very first psychiatrist, and I'm going to check my emails to see if he's replied eventually after this video. And all I can say now is the other places I went to were in London. Yeah, there's Blackthorn. I've been to Parklands Mental Health Hospital. Sorry, not Blackthorn, Blackheath. I've been to Basingstoke Parklands Mental Health Hospital, Hazel Ward. I've been to Havant, and that was called Sapphire Acute Mental Health Ward. The Basingstoke was PQ. Also, the rehab around the corner was Hollybrook. I've been there. I've been to Melbury Lodge in Winchester, which is an acute ward. I've been to I haven't been to Appleton House. I haven't been to St James's Society near Shirley. I haven't been to Forest Lodge. What else? I haven't been to Trinity Ward in Anslope House, because that's for women. Now, I have been in seclusion more than once, and it is also the worst experience of a mental health patient. Now, in order to reform what they do in mental health wards, they need to decide upon people who have a key worker. So say, for example, when I was in Anslope House, I didn't have a key worker because it was deemed that when you're in your room or when you're in the main area, you're just kind of solving your own issues yourself. And there are healthcare support workers around to help, but you don't have anyone assigned to you. You kind of have somebody who writes down what you're doing. They call it observations. And so if you're on 15-minute obs, then somebody watches you what you're doing. And every 15 minutes, they write down something like, oh, Mark is sitting in his chair in his bedroom. Like, if you're on half an hour obs, yeah, then the door might open. That's the bathroom. Like, that's the actual door there. It says the fire exit there. Now, if you're on a different type of obs every hour, they might write down, oh, this is happening, that is happening. If you're totally off observations, you may as well be a voluntary patient or completely discharged. Now, in Anslope House, what I'd recommend for them to do is, in Saxon Ward, change it so there's one staff member per patient, and that staff member stays with the patient. It kind of worked for a bit with me, but they didn't do it. The guy's name was Ben, and Ben was trying to make his, he was really funny, a really happy guy, but I couldn't meet him all the time. And on Hampton Ward and Saxon Ward, You also have access to a pool table, which is locked in a special room in the main corridor. And so you have a main corridor, and then from the main corridor you can go right to Saxon Ward, or down the stairs, or down the elevator to Hampton Ward. And so that's the entirety of my mental health so far. And I've recovered to a point where I've bought all these things. I've got a haircut, I've got a nice hat now, I've got pretty cool clothes, bit of a stomach, but that's alright, just to show I'm healthy and eating well. Going to try and work off some of the food, but I've got drinks and stuff. Got all this, some KFC drink there. It's just Pepsi Max, and that's a Pepsi Max. That's a Lynx for showered. Got a hydrated bottle there. I need to buy my mum one, and then I've got that PS5 there, and that's my setup for this. It's pretty cool. All right, sounds anyway. I don't need to talk about mental health much anymore. All right, bye.